record this. All right. So we're recording now. All right. So for this morning, as far as at least what I want to communicate, that may or may not be clear. A few people have asked about the reflections. So there is a reflection every week, with the exception of Thanksgiving week. You won't have one, but there's a reflection every week, and you don't have to address every one of those prompts that I give on the reflection pages in your reflection. The idea is that those prompts are catalysts for you to write about, but you may have something more pressing that you want to write about. That's fine, as long as the important thing is that you want to make that 2 to 3 page minimum, right? You should not be writing less than 2 pages on those reflections, and that the reflections should be indicative of the labor that you're putting in the course, or if you had difficulty that particular week, what that difficulty was, and various influences in terms of your participation in the course for that week. Okay, so for example, I had someone ask me last night if on the reflections for the peer edit, for example, if they had to do 3 pages for each one of those peer edit responses. And the answer is absolutely not. I was not asking you for a 12-page reflection. I was asking you for a 2 to 3 page reflection. Now, given that you did something as significant as peer review, either last week or the week before, that reflection is probably going to be longer, probably going to be more detailed, because you're more involved with what you have going on in the course. So that week you might do a 4-page reflection, but I'm not asking you to do 12, 13, 14-page reflections. That's not, no. But you do want to hit that 2-page minimum, and you do want to. So as I mentioned in several places before, the sort of key points to reflection are detail and significance. So that's what you want to keep in mind when you are writing your reflections, is detail in terms of, well, for example, if you were to say that you didn't understand something, for example, right? That's not a detailed statement. You could start out with that statement, but then you'd want to, elaborate on that, talk about specifically the point that you didn't understand in the reflection. And then, you would talk about what that meant to you. In other words, what did that particular misunderstanding, how was that reflected in your labor for the course? How did that cause you then to frame certain ways about what you were thinking with regard to the course or in general, and so on and so forth. So one is detail. The second aspect is significance. In other words, give the detail, and then what does the detail mean, right? What does the detail mean, in relation to sort of the overarching theme of all the reflections, which is the quality of your labor in the course. Because remember, ultimately, that's how you're being assessed, right, in the course. Now, any questions on that? Okay.
Mr.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
So if we finished our final draft early, is there a way? We already peer reviewed, like, okay, just gonna specify I've had a peer review done with a group member named Gracie, and then you also edited, well, not edited, you put a comment and I read it, and I edited on my own time based on what y'all were giving me feedback on.
Right.
To make a final draft. Where would the submission be for that?
Hold on to it. It's not up yet.
Okay. I was like,
yeah, just hold on to it. There's no, that's a good question. So right now there's no submission link for the final draft because it will show up in the week that it will be due, which was supposed to be week 8, but because I was out of sorts last week, it's going to be week 9, right? So you won't see the link to submit it for a couple weeks now. If you are done, that's fantastic, right? Hold on to it. And as far as doing your reflections, having already completed the draft, you can talk about, other aspects of your life, other aspects of your education, like, for example, your other courses, maybe, for example, how what you are encountering in our course, how that's affected some of the stuff in your other courses. Like, for example, if you're being asked to write in your other courses, how is that writing influencing the writing that you're doing here? How is the writing that you're doing in here influencing those courses? That sort of thing. So yeah, but no, that's a very good question. Anything else? Any other questions so far? Okay. The other thing, and again, I know for the people that are actually attending the check-ins, this isn't necessarily an issue, but a lot of people are either not turning in their stuff at all or turning in their stuff significantly after the due date. As per the way that the syllabus is written up, that is very detrimental to one's grade in the final grade in the class. I will say, if you're having issues, and this is recorded, so hopefully more people will hear this. But if you're having issues, let me know, and I can assess how I can help you. For example, somebody reached out to me last night and said that they hadn't turned in anything in like 3 weeks, and I understand if somebody has frustration and so on and so forth, but 3 weeks after the fact is not when to address that. If you're having frustration with something, contact me during the onset of the frustration, so that we can come up with a plan to deal with it. And again, as I've said before, that goes with all your classes. If you're having an issue, contact your instructors during the issue or at the onset of the issue, so that they can help you strategize and overcome the issue as it relates to their particular course. Obviously, if you're having a major life difficulty or something, your instructor's probably not going to be able to help you overcome that entirely, but that instructor can help you at least in terms of their course, right? So that's some general advice there. We're not even to midterm yet, so midterm is technically next week, so we're not even to midterm yet. So it's nobody is in dire straits right now. This is still the first half of the semester. I have discretion, but as far as grades and stuff like that, but I would request that you treat this course with a modicum of respect, in the sense that if you're having issues, contact me and so we can work on it. So there's that. another issue that I want to clarify, because, and I put it in a video last week, but I'll talk about it here too, is that if, you've been having issues with contacting your group members, or your group members not getting back to you and that sort of thing, and then we had a couple people who, unbeknownst to me, were not in groups because they came in after the beginning of the course, and Blackboard did not enroll them. Even though I had it set to automatic enrollment, they didn't. They weren't enrolled in groups. So there's the issue of if people were able to contact group members at all. So what I did was said that you could also have your material peer edited by a qualified person outside of that group. So, for example, someone else taking this course now, or having taken this course in the past, would be a qualified person. A professor or instructor, say from your high school that you're still in contact with, that would be a qualified person, although that particular person is probably very overworked at the moment. But you get the idea. Somebody who is not a qualified person would be like your 11-year-old cousin who's doing his online work next to you, right? That's not a qualified person. But so you get the idea. So that's not ideal in terms of the fact that the person's not in the class at present, but it's better than not having your work peer reviewed at all. So that is an option. The other option, and this is actually, I've had a lot of students do this over several semesters, and they've had good experiences, and that is with the Writing Center. So you are more than welcome to, and you can do this as part of a reflection too. Any kind of contact that you have with anyone, relating to anything you're doing in the course is totally appropriate, for your reflections. Even if you had a conversation like with, a friend or somebody about something that you're writing about, or you had a conversation that inspired you to, put something in your essay, or to look at writing in a different way, or anything like that. That's all, appropriate stuff for your reflections. Don't feel like don't be limited, right, by the prompts that I put up there. I'm not assessing your essay according to the prompts, right? The prompts are there to help you come up with something to write about. If you feel like, oh, I don't have anything to write about, that's what the prompts are for, right? And the whole, there's two goals, or I should say motivating factors, behind the reflections. They're not busy work, right? There's two, or they're not intended as such, right? There's two factors behind that. And that is, number one, the idea that the more that you write, the better writer you will ultimately become, right? The more that you're actually participating in craft, right? And the more that you're reading, and so on and so forth, right? It all helps in the process of becoming a more confident writer, right? So that's one. And then the second one, as I've already mentioned, even in this discussion, is that you're advocating for the quality of your labor. And the quality of your labor is ultimately how you're assessed in the course, right? You can also write about, for example, like if you attend like an on-campus event, anything like that, anything that ties into your quality of experience with, your education in particular, but anything even beyond sort of the educational realm that ties into your motivation for writing, your perspective, right, on self-expression and anything like that, right? Because bottom line is that we don't live in a vacuum. We don't exist in a vacuum, right? I mean, we can go to classes, right? And they say, oh, this is math class over here. This is writing class. This is, science, what have you. And they have their own little niches, right? And they have their own language, their own, jargon and so on and so forth, right? Their own rhetorical means and so forth, right? So there's all of that, and people like to sort of jockey for territory, academically speaking, because that translates, for one, that translates into money and funding. But really, when it comes down to it, all of that stuff influences one another, and so your experience in one class, for example, can influence your experience in another class and so forth. I can't tell you, how many students I've had, for example, that, like in an in-person class where I may, finish what I need to say on that particular class day. I may finish what I need to say in 10 minutes. And then people are working on their stuff maybe for another 20 minutes. And then for like the last 10 or 15 minutes of the class, the vast majority of students really just decide to, they just use that time to vent about, say, for example, a history project that they're doing, how difficult it is, or how sort of obscure they may be perceiving the instructions as, or whatever it may be, right? The point is that your experiences in other classes can definitely affect how you're doing in your other classes as well, right? How you're doing in a specific class. So you can write about that, right? As long as you bring it back to the idea of this is where my labor is going this week. This is where my energy is going, right? And here's why, right? I guess that might be a better way to put it, right? This is where my energy is going this week, so because my energy is going here this week, I've been able to allocate a certain amount of energy to go to the writing class, but it's competing with this, right? It's competing with the fact that I have this crazy test in college algebra, and it's I have a difficult time with this class, and so on and so forth, right? So you're talking about in the reflections where your energy goes for that given week, right? So I get that may be a better way. Then again, I am not assessing these things like, I'm not going through them with a fine-tooth comb necessarily. I'm looking to see that you're putting effort into it, meaning bare minimum, you're hitting the minimum 2-page requirement. That is important. I have, cut a lot of people a lot of slack on that, but it is important. And it's important you turn it in on time and so forth, right? But what I have seen happen with this kind of reflective writing over a few semesters is that students really do develop a sense of how they write best, under which circumstances they write better. And they get a sense of what certain classes or certain assignments, certain interactions mean to them, because because as doing these reflections, you're thinking about it, you're sort of carving out a space. Carve is a kind of a violent word. I don't want to use it, but you're allocating a space for you to express that, to think about that and express that. So because really, the total and ultimate goal of the class is for you to be more confident in your writing than when you came in, right? That is the strongest goal for this class. You know, so, and I can already tell, you know, that a number of you are excelling at this, you know. So, and I will say, you know, as I've said before, in reading the drafts for the narrative essays, there are, you know, in quite a few, I will say that they don't necessarily read as narratives, meaning that they lack narrative qualities. And I have a video on that specifically. Narrative qualities meaning physical description and dialogue, and that which anchors the reader, brings the reader, invites the reader to visualize, right? To visualize what's going on in the piece, and thereby, you know, making it multidimensional, right? So, and let it's more show rather than tell, you know. Right, and it's because if you show somebody something, that person has to then engage critically on some level to evaluate the meaning, to construct meaning around it, right? If you paint somebody a picture, either with words or, you know, with paint or with digitally or whatever, right? That person then has to engage critically to evaluate that on some level, right? So there's more involvement with the reader in that way. If you just come out and tell somebody something, there's not so much that involvement, unless, for example, unless there's some reason that the reader is going to distrust you, and then the reader might evaluate that what the reader's being told, you know, and basically call you out, or call your, you know, your virtual self out as an unreliable narrator. But that's getting into a lot of literary theory we don't necessarily need to get into unless you want to. But the point being is that if you can give a more multidimensional description of something, that's inviting the reader into engagement, a deeper engagement with what's on the page, right? So when I talk about narrative elements, that's what I'm talking about, right? But getting back to my initial point here, there are issues with a lot of the essays, but I have not come across an essay where I was just like, this is just crap, you know. And believe me, in my career, I've seen it. I have seen essays that, I mean, that look like, you know, did this person, you know, just, you know, write this in the restroom, like, you know, 5 minutes, and, you know, and so, and not to be to besmirch that either, because you can write some genius stuff in the restroom in 5 minutes, but for the vast majority of us, doing that on a, you know, on a regular basis, it's not going to result in something great. However, speaking of writing processes and such, you know, my own personal writing process is such that I'll be thinking about whatever I'm going to write for days in some cases, for hours, or for days in some cases, and I'll be formulating, you know, the language and so forth in my mind. And so when I finally, you know, sit in front of a keyboard or type it out on my phone or whatever I'm doing, it'll come out in a closer to cohesive form. So it may appear, oh, he just sat down and did this in 5 minutes, but in actuality, I've been working on it quite a bit, just not in a tangible form, right? In a more subtle way, you know, that you can't see. So, and even you know, Edgar Allan Poe. This is, again, if y'all aren't interested in this, I can totally talk about something else. But even Edgar Allan Poe, you know, swore up and down. I mean, I'm sure all of y'all read The Raven in both, probably even in elementary school, but I know in middle school and high school, right? You read The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, which is a beautiful, beautiful piece, haunting piece. My favorite is the Simpsons version, which I'm sure all of you probably watched in class back in, you know, in high school. But with Bart Simpson as the Raven and Homer as the speaker. But anyway, the point being, my point here is that Edgar Allan Poe claims, right? He said that he didn't revise the Raven, that it just like came out, right? That's simply not true, because early drafts of the Raven have been found. So, you know, that's the whole myth of, you know, the Raven having you know, just come out of Edgar Allan Poe, like, you know. But anyway, so, and then of course there's a great a wonderful, wonderful essay. I should find it and put it in the folder, right, for this week. It's like 3 pages or something, 4 pages, but I believe it's by Margaret Atwood. It's by no. Well, it might be, but I can't remember if it's Margaret Atwood or Anne Lamott. It might be Anne Lamott. But anyway, the piece is called "Shitty First Draft," right? And the whole point is to allow yourself give yourself permission to write a shitty first draft. That if you know if you are composing, just the understanding is that the first draft is going to be shit, you know. And that's not necessarily true. And in fact, really, that's why a lot of if you do a lot of pre-writing, if you actually engaged in some of the if you engage in some of the pre-writing exercises that I had posted on the discussion boards, right? If you actually engaged in that, your first draft was not shit, right? Because you already were engaging in pre-writing, you were already thinking about these things, and so actually your quote unquote your first draft was not a rough draft. It was not a first draft. It was actually is probably more equivalent to a second draft, right? Because you've already done the pre-writing, right? You've already done that work, you know. By the time you get to the first draft, because like I say, I'm not saying, you know, really horrible first drafts, and I'm actually very appreciative of that. You know, so, but what I'm trying to tell you is that if you have sort of trepidation, anxiety about writing, you're in very good company. Some of the most gifted writers in the history of the English language um, have dealt with the same kind of anxiety. You know, I have tremendous writing anxiety and performance anxiety, for that matter. You know, because writing, and writing is, to one degree or other, there's a lot to be said about writing as performance. Um, and so, and in fact, I was talking to somebody just before I got on here. I was having a conversation in Messenger, which is sort of ironic because Messenger is writing. Messenger is text, right, back and forth. So that's a form of writing. But she was talking about having taken this class 15 years ago, and how when she took the class, she was really concerned. She was embarrassed or concerned about her instructor seeing her essays, because she was worried about, you know, the judge, worried about judgment, you know. And if you look at writing as performance, you know, you can kind of see, kind of get the whole uh, you know, scenario of this whole performance that's being judged. That's what this class is trying to reframe, right? So, you know, writing is still a performative act, but you're performing more for yourself, right, than you're performing for me. I'm kind of like on the sidelines, right? You know, you are essentially trying to make your writing stronger than it was um, than it was for your previous work. So my role is more like a coach than it is a judge, right? So, yeah, you're practicing, you're performing through your writing, but my hope is that I'm coaching you, not judging you. Let's see. Um, and and that's and for those of you, a lot of you have athletic experience or say UIL experience, like debate or band or something like that. And so that analogy probably works real well for you. You understand the distinction. So I know when I was in high school, for example, my debate coach was like one of my absolute favorite instructors because his role was just like he was a cheerleader, basically. I mean, he would tell us when we were screwing up and things like that, but his role was never to defeat us or bring us down, a peg or something like that. And frankly, as long as I, worked, it's very similar because frankly, as long as I, participated in the debates and so on and so forth, and did the research and practice and all that stuff, I was guaranteed to get a straight 100 in his class, because I was putting the effort in, right? And that's what this class is. That's exactly what it's like in this class, right? If you put the effort in, and there's evidence of that effort, you will. What content is going to be? Oh, hold on. Let me look in the chat here. If I can find it. Here we go. Chat. Okay. What content is going to be on the upcoming exam? There is no upcoming exam. I don't know who told you there was an exam. There is not. Not an exam. I don't believe in them. I don't believe in exams. They're cruel, right? There is no exam in this class. There's not an exam listed on the syllabus. You're reading the wrong syllabus if you think there's an exam in this class. There is not. And I have never once said there was going to be. Oh, thanks. This is the, let me see. This is so this is not the Jaguar one. There is a Jaguar one that has the Jaguar on it. I don't think I ever got the Jaguar one. I may have the Jaguar one some, but this is the 2019 Pride shirt. And a number of us from A&M San Antonio volunteered with the Pride Parade actually during the day, and I was too exhausted by the evening to actually participate in the parade because that's just hella crazy. But no, a number of us, and my job was going through backpacks. It was interesting because Ron Nuremberg came through. One of my exes came through with her, the person she was seeing, at the time, and whatever. But no, it was, and I will tell you, and this is being recorded, so and everyone will hear this. That was one of my proudest moments being associated with A&M San Antonio was at the Pride Parade, because those students who volunteered, they worked all day. And I mean, they were not participating in anything. They were at they weren't, what I mean by participating is they weren't like, listening to the bands or going to the booths and stuff. They were there, assisting people who were going to the festival and stuff the whole day. And I mean, I just felt so proud to be associated with this university and with those students. So anyway, but yeah, there is a Jaguar version if you can find it, or if you can. They may still have some in the Mays Center actually, But it was a really cool shirt design, actually. But okay. I know I went through a lot fairly quickly. Does anybody have any questions, thoughts, and so on? So the closest thing to an exam you will have is the final reflection is actually going to be a reflection over the entire course. That's the closest thing to an exam you're going to have. Okay. It's essentially an ultimate, final reflection. Now, if you're in the learning communities class, you will have the co-teacher on the learning communities, Angel and myself. We're still kind of working out the details, but you'll do the next project like everybody's going to do, whether you're in learning communities or not. You're going to do the next project, which is the profile project, which I'm going to introduce this week or next on Blackboard. But again, I apologize. I'm running way behind because I got sick. But if you're in the learning communities, your focus is going to be a little bit more limited. It's going to be career oriented specifically, so it will tie into Angel's class as well. And then if you're in his class as well as mine, ultimately you're going to take what you created for the profile and you're going to make it into a presentation for his class. But even so, it's not going to be, it's not going to be the type of exam like, you would do in college algebra. I keep mentioning college algebra because that was like my nemesis, right? Because honestly, I was, too fucking lazy. I'm just being real for you guys. Like, I took college algebra 3 times, okay? And I only passed it. And actually, I came real close to getting an A. But I only did so because I finally had an instructor who required the homework. Because previously I wouldn't do the homework, and but no, I just college algebra was like my worse than college algebra was pre-calculus, and I was see, back in the day. I only saw my advisor once, and I'm talking about once in my undergraduate career, once. Okay, we had to do all that stuff ourselves, and this was back when you still had to register over the phone, and registering over the phone was a step up because when I first started college, I graduated from a state school, but I began at a small liberal arts college, and you actually still had to stand in line for your courses. You'll watch, certain movies from like the 80s and before and so forth. I'm not that old, but it's the idea. If you watch certain movies with colleges, in them, and you'll see people standing in line for their course. That was a real thing. I mean, people used to. But by the time I was in college in the early 90s, early to mid 90s, we registered over the phone, which was a vast improvement. But the point is that I was doing student teaching, and I was real exhausted because basically for student teaching you do somebody else's job for free for 6 months, and actually 6 to 9 months, and I was just completely exhausted, and I had like one class left after that, or two classes, I think, something after that, and one of them was pre-cal. And I registered, not realizing I registered for the one for science majors. So here I was, a humanities major, taking a pre-cal course for science majors. That was probably the only Mercy C I got in my undergraduate career. Does anybody know what a Mercy C is? Mercy C is when they just say, screw it, and give you a C. Why? Because again, the, you know, what I obviously I probably would have failed outright based on what I got, you know, got on the exams and stuff. But the TA was compassionate enough that he felt like I put at least C effort into it. And he knew I wasn't going into a mathematics laden field, right? I was not going to go pre-med, you know, or something like that, which is who that course was for. You know, the course was for scientists. I was not a hard scientist, right? So anyway, not that you wanted to know that much about my college experience, but it really, you know, has changed to a great degree. You know, like for example, I mean, it goes without saying that had this pandemic occurred, um, even when I began teaching 22 years ago, when I began teaching these types of courses, I don't know that we could have stayed in business through distance learning. You know, the technology just wasn't there. You know, you know. So anyway, things are have changed for better or worse in many ways. I can tell you my dorm experience is much better than was much better than y'all's. Much better. Oh, by leaps and bounds. But I'm not going to necessarily get into that because but but anyway. Um in part because well the internet existed then, but um you know, everyone having a camera with them at every moment did not. That was not. So I'll just say that it was very, and I'm sure that your parents have said this to you, or other people close to you who are maybe a little bit older have said this to you, that they're very glad, right, that they did not come of age in the age of social media, right? Um, because most of the stuff that I did essentially is hearsay because it's like, well, you don't have evidence of it, you know. So anyway, yeah, just you all need to be very very careful, very careful because you know everything you do. It's really sad. It's really unfortunate that everything you do it can be documented. Is very easily documented in so many ways. And so, you know, even when you know make mistakes and things like that, you know, which will happen for most of us, you know, there's a picture of you doing such and such, and yeah, it's just so unfortunate. So just be very careful. Um, you know. All right. Any questions before we log off today? Yeah, actually, there's another chat. Oh, is this like your shirt? Okay, yeah, we already talked about that. Okay. All right. Anything else today? Like I said, I'll get the folder up for this week. The only thing I know for certain that will be in there is going to be the
So
I don't know if you're mute.
feel free to reach out to me. Like I said in my announcement. Oh, is it still out?
it's good now.
It's good. Yeah, I think I had a bill collector try to break in on a call. But anyway, no, what I was saying was that you know, if you if I hadn't gotten to your essay yet, and there's some, like I said on my announcement this morning, if I hadn't gotten to your essay yet, and there's something pressing about the essay that you need help with, you can reach out to me, and we can arrange to meet, like on Zoom or something, at a time that's convenient for you. Okay. Anything else?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So by next week 8, we will see the narrative essay pop up to turn in, or is it already pre-made to turn it in on week 7, but you will accept it week 8?
No. I'm gonna. I think because I think it was originally due week 8, so it's probably gonna be due week 9 now. But
Okay.
it'll show. It will show up in that particular week. Um,
Oh,
so if you've completed it, once you complete it, just hold on to it
yep.
until you see it pop up.
Sorry, it's because it makes me nervous. I have that performance anxiety. I'm like,
Oh no, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. No, you're totally fine. Um, I will say, make sure you back up your stuff. Back it up in the cloud, back it up on your, the hard drive of whatever you're using, whatever device you're using and stuff, because, it's even happened to me. I think it was this summer. I was working on something for class, and I had typed out, like a whole page or a couple of pages, and my Surface Pro updated itself, and so everything I'd been working on, I hadn't saved the document, and everything I'd been working on for 3 hours was gone, So make sure that you're backing up your materials. That and so all right. Any other thoughts right now? Again, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than willing to meet with anybody individually. Um, and okay, all right. So I'll be on again tomorrow if you want to join tomorrow. Um, anyway, just contact me if you have any further questions. Okay. All right. Have a good day, everyone.